Hey, what's going on, man? It's yours truly, TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And we have with us a familiar face to the State of the Saints podcast. We have Rod Walker. Rod, what's going on?
What's up, man? Good to be back on. Thanks for having me, as
Man,
always.
Yeah, man, appreciate the time. I know a lot of people in the Who Dat Nation riding high this week after the Saints. Domination of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, man. Rod, the last time you were on the show, man, we were talking a lot about, Drew Brees and a lot of questions about Drew Brees as the quarterback of this team. But since then, Drew Brees has elevated his game. And, my question is to you, the first question is, how, in your opinion, has Drew Brees looked over these last three games? And should he be in the MVP conversation at this point?
That's funny. It was just last week, I wrote a big story on Alvin Kamara should be in that conversation. That's an award that has been pretty much reserved for quarterbacks the past few years.
Right.
Adrian Peterson was the last running back to win it. And,
right.
You look, Alvin's pretty much carried this team, the whole first half of the season.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden, Drew Brees is starting to make his case and get in that race. He's been pretty special these past 3 weeks. You look at his numbers, they're pretty incredible. I don't have him in front of him, but he's been really solid after getting off to a sort of slow start. He struggled, but this is a team that's getting all their pieces back together now, and you're seeing it. It's showing up on the field Sundays. What we saw Sunday night was just incredible, man, from start to finish.
Yeah, it was just domination. And, you talk about the stats. Drew Brees, 17 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. And in the last 3 games, he has a total of 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And I know we can talk about, Kamara being an MVP, but we all know that they kind of, preserved their award for the quarterback for some apparent reason. But, back to the game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. Right, total disrespect for the New Orleans Saints. Total disrespect across the board. NFL Network, ESPN, Fox Sports 1, everybody picking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers almost in a rout of the New Orleans Saints. So what is it about this team when it seems like their back is against the wall or they're an underdog? What is it about this team that helps them rise to the occasion and prove the naysayers wrong?
I think they just play with and it's sort of been the story of Drew Brees' whole career. He plays with a chip on his shoulder. He always feels like he has to prove people wrong because he's been doubted since his days in high school, Yeah. And I think that just carries on to this team, and they just play with a chip on their shoulder. They like to be disrespected like that. I think it gives them something to go out and play for, and they showed. The way they won, the fact that they won, that's not really a surprise. I wouldn't have been shocked if Tampa Bay had won, but just how convincing it was, man. It was just crazy how that happened. You mentioned earlier about Drew not throwing an interception. There was actually a play in the game when he almost threw an interception early in the game, and you always have to wonder, like, would that have changed anything? I don't know, but they were really rolling. They just jumped on them and never let up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you talk about that pass. I think Jason Pierre-Paul
right.
down at the goal line. It happens sometimes. Sometimes you think that a guy throw an interception, all drop. But like you said, that could have been a momentum shift. But it's just the fact that the Saints just completely dominated those guys, and the fact that the national media gave them no chance. And last question before we move on: what is it about the national media journalists? Why can't they just come out and say, you know what, I was wrong. I made a mistake. What is it about, people not being able to admit their mistakes in the media? What's up with that, right?
I think, and I've been doing predictions even when I was covering high schools, we did predictions. It's kind of funny. Like whenever you're in the media and you get it wrong, everybody always wants to kind of jump on you like, oh, they got it wrong. Then the media gets it right sometimes too, and nobody ever says, "Oh, they got it right." So I see both sides of it, and they're not going to apologize for getting it wrong. It's just their opinion, and to me, based on what you had seen those first 7 weeks of the season, based on how Tampa Bay had been playing, based on how the Saints have been playing, and based on that game being in Tampa, I can't really argue with someone who thought Tampa was going to win. I guess the thing is, it's just everybody said it, and then for the Saints to just dominate like that, I mean, you definitely can look back on it and say, yeah, I told you so. But the Saints do get it. I mean, the media, they get it right sometimes too. So I'm going to defend the media a little bit on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like, okay, like I was being very critical of Drew Brees at the beginning of the season. I went back and I apologized. I was like, I was wrong, But I just feel like it makes things worse, right? When you're wrong, and then you just double down on being incorrect. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, just say, I was wrong. Eat a little crow.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You definitely eat some crow if you're wrong on it, especially that game. I mean,
right.
The way the Saints dominate, you got to say, "Yeah, I missed it." Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's true. But let's talk about the defense. I mean, defense played outstanding. They only had like 4 rushing attempts. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers for about 9 yards. One. Well, you add 5 if you count the kneel down, but it was just total destruction. I mean, they got a rush on Tom Brady from the beginning of the game. Cam Jordan put his hand,
first play of the game,
disrupting the pass. I mean, secondary just looked outstanding. I mean, what happened? You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it was like really literally no mistakes by the defense. Do you see that this could be a possible trend going forward?
I think so, man. I think. And I wrote this somewhere, or I told somebody this on another show or something, but I think when this season is over, and assuming the Saints do what they're supposed to do and get to the Super Bowl, I mean, this is the week we'll look back on and say, hey, that Tampa Bay game was the turning point of this season. I mean, they just finally got it all together. The biggest thing on the defense did in that game was they kept Tom Brady off the field. They were 1 of 9 on third downs. I mean, they were just 3 and out.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a rest. I mean, if you go 3 and out, I mean, you're not going to win. And the Saints made sure of that by just keeping Tom Brady out the field. And, it got to a point where, I mean, you could see the frustration on his face, man. I mean, it was just like, man, I can't do anything. There was nothing he could do. You can't run the ball. You can't pass the ball. I mean, what are you going to do? So, yeah, it was just total domination. Good to see the secondary. That was a weak link on this team. I mean, we've talked about it since all season long. And, they got it together. You look at those guys up front just stayed in Brady's face all day, which makes it hard on him. And secondary came up with the defense came up with 3 interceptions, 2 by the secondary and 1 by Onyemata. So that's just impressive performance all the way around. Outside of that Jared Cook fumble, I have nothing. There's nothing you can complain about in that game. I mean, they did it all.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading something that somebody posted on Twitter. They said the Saints, like, statistically, put up one of the best performances. I think since the beginning of them, like, breaking down analytics, they said that was probably the best performance ever analytically. I was like, that's unbelievable. I mean, you're not going to see things like that again, right? I mean, 4 rushing attempts, some of the things that they did. I mean, Tampa really didn't have an answer for them at all.
They didn't.
Yeah. But, I mean, you look at the New Orleans Saints defensively, they're flying high, and now they bring in Kwon Alexander, a familiar foe to them, like a guy that played for Tampa all those years, went to San Francisco, and the Saints got him via trade. What can Kwon Alexander bring to this Saints defense?
I think he's just a guy that, and I can't remember who we were talking to yesterday. It may have been DeMario or Malcolm or somebody, and they were just talking about how, no, I think it may have been Emmanuel Sanders who actually played with him last year, and just talk about first of all, they all talk about what kind of a great guy he'll be in their locker room. Like, he's going to be, they say he's going to fit in perfectly just with that team. And obviously, that's always big when you have the good chemistry. But, I mean, he's just another fast guy that can, is a sure tackler, and, he kind of brings the wood when he tackles. So I think he'll fit in right. He'll fit in well, especially with, beside a guy like DeMario. So just another, big addition to this unit. Linebackers, I mean, you got Alex Anzalone, but I mean, we talk about DeMario, but that's kind of all we talk about on linebackers. So it's good for them to, bring a guy in like this who's going to be able to contribute right away. I would expect, the big thing about him is just staying healthy. I think he's only played 16 games once in his career. He's battled some injury issues, and you want to see this guy stay healthy, especially for a linebacker unit that has had a lot of injuries over the past few years other than DeMario.
Yeah. And Kwon Alexander, I mean, that's the biggest question mark, about him, is can he stay healthy, and be able to sustain a clean bit of help throughout the whole entire season. The Saints gave up Kiko Alonso and a draft pick for him. But I think that, he adds an interesting dynamic, like you said. I mean, I remember like watching Tampa Bay Buccaneers games. I mean, he always flashed. He came off the screen when he played against the Saints. It was always a battle of wits between he and Drew Brees. So it's good that the Saints actually got an opportunity to get him. I think he'll be a good complementary linebacker to Mario Davison. And hopefully they can, get a little bit more pressure. And speaking of pressure, you got to talk about Trey Hendrickson. I mean, third in the league right now in sacks, a disruptor, a guy with a high motor and a guy that kind of flew under the radar this season. Rod, everybody was talking about, Jadeveon Clowney. Like, why wouldn't you get Clowney? And people kind of, overlook Trey Hendrickson starting the season, but you can tell like he's proving a lot of people wrong. What is it about Trey Hendrickson that makes him so special?
I think the first thing is, and anybody you ask about Trey, I always talk about the energy he plays with. I mean, he's like he gets after it, man, and that's what you want to see. And obviously, it helps having a guy like Cam Jordan on the other side. Right. But Trey's just playing. There was a sequence in that game where he had 3 sacks in a row. One of them got notified because of the holding penalty on C.J. Gardner-Johnson. But I mean, he got to Tom Brady on 3 consecutive plays. I mean, you don't see that. He just I can't remember Smith's first name for Tampa, but I mean, he was just plowing past him on all 3 plays. It's just one-on-one. And, Trey talked the other day about that's what they talk about all season, is just winning those one-on-one battles. So really big for him to be having this kind of season. So this is the final year of his rookie deal. He came in with that class with Kamara and Marshawn and Ramczyk and those guys, Marcus Williams, and Trey's the guy that you don't really talk about in that class, but he's really stepped up this season, and having 7.5 sacks, 8 games this season is really impressive.
Yeah. Do you think the Saints can keep Trey Hendrickson? Can he come back to the New Orleans Saints, in your opinion?
Man, we always wonder about the Saints and how they're going to make this money work, and they've always been able to do it, but man, this year is going to be tough. This is going to be this will probably be the toughest time they've had in recent years with those guys I just listed. It's a lot of good players that you got to pay somehow. And I know Trey likes being here, but you just never know, man.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. He's just so good. And I kind of predicted that at the beginning of the season. We talked about prediction. I said that he was going to be really good. I mean, you could tell, right? Like, when he came into the game, even like when he was just in there for a little small spurts when Davenport started, he would always flash off the screen or do something special or get pressure on the quarterback. He reminds me, he can be like a Ryan Kerrigan or like a Jared Allen type defensive end. Like, I feel like if he goes to, probably a fair share of these teams, I mean, he'll probably be the heart and soul of a defense. I mean, this guy just never quits, never gives up, and he just continues to fight to try to get pressure on the quarterback. Let's talk about the secondary. The secondary, they look good, this past game. A lot of people in the Who Dat Nation, they were like, we need to get this guy, that guy. Rod, I'm even looking at the chat right now. My guy, Josh, he's asking, should the Saints go out and maybe get an insurance policy like Earl Thomas? What do you think about that? Do you think the Saints need to possibly add another piece to the secondary?
In a season like this with, you think about COVID and just all the things that could go wrong, and it never hurts to have insurance. So, it wouldn't hurt at all. But, you look at how they played. If these guys stay healthy, I feel pretty confident in what they can do especially after seeing Sunday night. If you had asked me that question 2 weeks ago, I'd been like, oh yeah, definitely. But now I don't think it's a necessity, but again, it can't hurt. But
right. Because this is the only thing that kind of scares me. Okay. As well as Marshawn Lattimore played in that game, dominated Mike Evans like always. I don't think in the last 3 contests Mike Evans has a catch on Lattimore at all. You can kind of just say, he has his number. But late in the fourth quarter, Lattimore went down. Now, it wasn't anything serious, I don't think, but it just puts that thought in the back of your mind, like, what happens if he does go down? You have the opportunity to play these cover zeros because you have man corners on both sides, but if he was to go down, like, I mean, what would the Saints do then?
Yeah.
So,
And you say that, and when the season first started, and I don't know if I was on this show or where I was, but someone asked me about the Saints and who was the one player they couldn't afford to lose. Right. And to me, I think it's Marshawn. I just think if he goes down, it changes everything in that secondary. And that was, I was talking about on the defensive side. I think Marshawn's the most important part of that puzzle.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I just think that his ability to lock up the best corners, the best wide receivers. He does much better against wide receivers like the Julios, like the Mike Evans. Right. He struggled a tad bit with those little scatty guys, like the Hunter Renfrows and the Scotty Millers. But if you put him on a top-notch elite wide receiver, he's going to rise to the occasion. So I really think that he's extremely important.
Yeah. It's hard to explain why he's like that, man. I don't know why Marshawn is like that where he is. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I need to put Mike Evans' name on the back of every jersey or something that he plays against, but man, he gets up for him, but he has his moments against those other guys, man. He just doesn't lock in. It doesn't seem like the same way.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It just frustrates you because he's so good.
Right.
And, he plays so well against Mike Evans, which, we understand. That game, that leading back to the rookie season, Mike Evans hit him over the middle and the back. You can tell he take that extremely personal. But, you just need that same energy, every single game. And I feel like if he plays with the same type of energy as he does guarding Mike Evans, like he will be arguably like top 2 corner in the National Football League. So that's just something to think about. Offensively, we talked earlier about Alvin Kamara being an MVP. Definitely the front runner, in my opinion, for Offensive Player of the Year. What is about Alvin Kamara this season? What's so different? He's always been dynamic. He's always been a good pass catching running back. But it's just something about this season. It seemed like he took it up a notch.
I think the biggest thing for him is just being healthy, man. And he's talked about that. Last year he was hurt more than we realized, and he tried to battle through it. And people were talking about his body language doesn't look good, but it wasn't his body language; it was his body. He was hurt, and he's back. He's healthy. I think not having Mike Thomas those games. Drew had a guy he could really depend on in Alvin, and that helped as well. And now that Mike's back, it's just going to really open things up for his offense. But you look at Alvin; he's third in the league in receptions this year. Obviously a bunch of just little swing passes and things like that, but he's been productive, man. You get the ball in his hand and he makes something happen. Every game he has a play, and you're like, wow, he just does it, man.
Yeah, it was one play right in the game. I think he only got maybe like a yard. I think Drew Brees threw a pass, but it was like one of the most exciting 1-yard games I've ever seen in my entire life. He made like maybe 2 guys miss, and even for him to get back, a little bit past the line of scrimmage. He's just so fun to watch.
He is fun to watch, man. And he's having fun. We can, even when we do we do everything on Zoom now. We're not in the locker rooms this season because of COVID, but you can just tell that Alvin's enjoying himself, man. He's really he's like one of the, when it comes to like post-game interviews, he's the guy you want to talk to because he's just really just kind of tells you like it is, and he's just having fun. It's obvious he's having fun this year, and I guess being healthy and getting that contract, it will make things fun.
Yeah, you could tell, like even like when you will interview him, he's so personable. It's like he's sitting down talking to like some of his homeboys at the crib or something. And that's something about him. He has always been like a realist. Ever since he first got into the league, he's basically been the same way.
That's what he is. He's a good dude, man, and you like him, and you want to guys like that. You want to see him do well, and he's doing well.
Yeah, and now you have Michael Thomas coming back. It makes the Saints offense even more dynamic. Emmanuel is coming back after dealing with COVID-19. But let's start with Michael Thomas. The question was asked about his suspension and some of the trade rumors. Do you think that all of that stuff with Michael Thomas is behind him, and do you feel like it's going to kind of keep on perking up a tad bit?
No, I think it's behind him, and I actually think Mike may have learned some stuff about himself during all that. I think it kind of just opened his eyes and made him realize that it's a team thing, and we just got to be in this together if we want to be successful. And he was asked about the incident with CJ, and he said something about losing his temper. He sort of admitted that he lost his temper, and so I think he realizes that you can't do that, and he knows what this team has and what they can be, and he knows it's going to take all of them to do that. So, I don't think there's too much to the other stuff. I think he likes being here. He likes playing with Breeze. Obviously, we don't know how long Breeze is going to be here, but I think Mike likes New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, and New Orleans likes him. Everybody loves Michael Thomas. It's been week after week since week one. People ask, when is he coming back? When is he coming back? Because I mean, he's so important to this offense. I mean, it looked completely different this past Sunday because you have to account for his greatness. I mean, guys are eating in that offense because Michael Thomas is out there because he demands a double team. He demands a constant attention. So him being on the field really helps this offense. And also, with Emmanuel Sanders, I mean, dealt with COVID-19, missed 2 games. He's back. He had a touchdown in this game. It seems like his chemistry with Drew Brees is really starting to pick up. What do you think about Emmanuel Sanders' performances this season?
I think he's done really well. And, talking to Drew about him, that's a guy that Drew has a lot of respect for him. And he talked about how he had respect for him even before he got here. He said that was a guy that he watched him when he was in Pittsburgh. He watched him when he was in Denver. He watched him in San Francisco. He's seen him before. He knew he was a good player. He remembers Emmanuel from last year against the, when the Saints played the 49ers when Sanders had the big catch and Sanders also threw a touchdown. And so, I mean, he's a guy that's really meant a lot to this team too. And, Alvin was talking yesterday about how, when you got Mike, I mean, Mike helps Alvin, Alvin helps Mike. Right. I mean, it's a defensive coordinator's nightmare. I mean, you got to imagine, I mean, we hadn't even talked about Jared Cook. I mean, they just have a lot of weapons on this team. And then you had all those other younger receivers who had to step up when Mike and Emmanuel weren't there, So we saw like Marquez Callaway. So those guys have got some experience that they probably wouldn't have got, had Mike and Emmanuel been out. So I think all that's just going to help this team down the road because there are going to be some more injuries. Injuries are going to pop up. Yeah. COVID might pop up. You just don't know. So, I mean, I think just having all these guys being able to get some experience in big games helps.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. I think, Emmanuel Sanders, he's so underrated as a route runner. I think every team that he went to, there was always like this larger figure that kind of stood out. I mean, when he was in Pittsburgh, you had people like, Antonio Brown and, I think at that particular time, I don't know if Antonio Holmes was there or something like that, like towards the end before he went to the Jets. I'm not sure. Right. And then you have the Denver Broncos. You have Demaryius Thomas, who was getting the majority of catches from Peyton Manning. But he has always been a guy that kind of been under the radar, very underappreciated by the National Football League. I would put him like in that category, almost like a T.Y. Hilton or something, a Keenan Allen type player, a guy that's really good, been good for a while, but people don't really just give them the attention that they deserve.
Right. And the good thing about that, though, is Emmanuel doesn't mind being that guy. I mean, you have a lot of receivers that, they get tired of being the number 2 guy. They want to be the man. And Emmanuel's not built like that, which is really good for him. And he's just and I'll talk about how great of a guy Alvin was, but Emmanuel's the same way, man. He's just really solid guy. And, he'll probably be in the broadcast booth when his career ends because it's just kind of guy he is. But, so he's not getting caught up into all that. On the top, he doesn't care about being the man, and so I mean that's why he's been so successful.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we definitely appreciate the Saints picking him up. I mean, he's been a great addition to the team. You mentioned the tight ends, so we finally have an Adam Troutman sighting. I mean, this guy 3rd round pick out of Dayton. A lot of comparisons to some of the best tight ends in the league. We saw some flashes. We seen him in the red zone catching his first touchdown of his career. And we also seen that check that pass, that was thrown to him. I mean, he ran for a huge gain. So, do you think this could be Adam Troutman's coming out party?
Yeah, I think so, man. I mean, I think he needed a game like that, and man, that game would have been everybody's coming out party. Though. I mean, Drew Brees threw about 11 different guys in that game, man. I mean, it's just incredible how he was spreading around from the start. I mean, the first quarter, he had thrown, I think it was 8 different receivers in the first 10 minutes of the game. Mm-hmm. It was 9 by the end of the first quarter, 11 by midway through the second quarter, because that's when Troutman and that's when Taysom caught a pass and Emmanuel caught a pass early in the second quarter. So, I mean, he was just spreading it around. But, yeah, I mean, I think Drew's the kind of guy, like, once he sees he can count on you, I mean, he's going to go to you. So, yeah, that's just another weapon that defenses have to worry about. And, it's good to see a guy, get his first touchdown in such a big game on a Sunday night when everybody's watching. So, it's happy for him, and he was really excited about it as well.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can tell. And, it's just something about, like, when players, get that first touchdown or the quarterback throws them the ball. I mean, me, playing football back in the day, I remember, like, catching a pass from a quarterback. And it's like it becomes addictive, like I gotta catch this pass again. I gotta get this touchdown. You know what I'm saying? Like it becomes addictive. So and also, just the fact that you get that touchdown, it builds up your confidence. And I just think, I'm not even concerned about Jared Cook. I mean, everybody has bad games,
right.
But I just think if you take Jared Cook and then Alan Troutman comes on, I mean, this can be a very, very dangerous offense, and I mean it's going to be fun to watch going down the line. But Jared Cook had bad game, but one game he played really great last year versus the San Francisco 49ers. He had 2 catches, 2 touchdowns, before he left the game with a concussion. But let's talk about the 49ers, okay? You all asked the question to Drew Brees at the press conference, and he was talking about how some of those games were so meaningful. We know about the Week 8 game last year. We know about the divisional round game back in the day. Games always, the Saints versus the 49ers always have, like, big stakes on the line. But, I mean, we have to be real here. The 49ers have had the Saints number over the past couple of years. So what can the Saints do? And I know they're decimated, but Kyle Shanahan is just as good as calling plays as Sean Payton is. And we've seen Sean Payton, with some of the limited weapons that he have, still do enough for the Saints to get the victory. So what do you expect from the New Orleans Saints versus the 49ers coming up this weekend?
Well, I think the Saints are going to – first of all, they need to try to just pick up where they left off on Sunday. I mean, if they can just keep that momentum going and play like they did and spread the ball around and get everybody going, I think they'll be fine. I think this is a 49ers team. You can't let them get any momentum early because, I mean, Saints need to punch them in the mouth like they did the Buccaneers. And that's going to be a really big key because, like you said, I mean, their offense – they're going to have some plays, and they're going to be able to move the ball probably. So, if the Saints can get them in trouble, I mean, you mentioned the injuries. I mean, they're pretty decimated all over the field. Quarterback, running back. They're just, Richard Sherman's out on defense. I mean, so they have some issues, but I mean, the Saints you can't just rely on what happened last week and think it's going to carry over. I mean, they got to come out and be ready to play because this is a dangerous 49ers team, even though they're hurt. So the key is just going to be able to, try to get them off the field like you did the Buccaneers. A lot of 3-and-outs and let Drew Brees and the offense do their thing.
Yeah. Do you think this is a trap game?
No, I used to kind of sort of think that, but I think in the NFL, man, I think guys are, man, they're not like college guys. These NFL guys are a little more locked in, and they usually know it's at stake. They're not going to the class and hearing out a student body telling them how great they are from the week before. So, I mean, they're focused, and they know that. Even talk to the guys this week. I mean, they know that as well as they played against Tampa Bay, they still feel like they need to do. They feel like there's work to do, and they feel like they need to get better. So, I don't think they'll be complacent. I don't think they'll sleepwalk into this game or anything like that. I think they'll be focused and ready, and I think they want to continue to play like they played. And I think, you look at how the Saints ended their last 3 seasons. I mean, they know you got to know at this point that you can't take anything for granted. I mean, you just can't. You can't take any game for granted. You can't take any plays for granted. And I expect to see that Sunday. I mean, if they don't come out with that mentality, I mean, I'd be disappointed. And it sort of takes away from what they did this past Sunday if they come out and lay an egg. I mean, you just don't want to see that after such a dominant performance.
Yeah, I mean, the stars are aligned right now, and they control their own destiny, right? I mean, number one seed right now. All you have to do is just, continue to build off what you did last week. Like you said, I mean, I use this. I mean, I use this term. I'm pretty sure you heard this before. They smell like smoke because they've been through the fire. I mean, this team has been battle tested. I mean, for the last 3 years. So
right.
Shame on you if you can't rise to the occasion and understand what's in front of you.
Right.
But Ryan, last question before you go. I want you to fill in this blank for me. The Saints make the Super Bowl if.
The Saints make the Super Bowl if. It's a good question, man. Let me think. the easy answer would be if they play like they played Sunday night, but I just think they got to stay. I'm trying to think who needs to stay healthy. I think the Saints are. I think they're going to make the Super Bowl.
Okay.
It's just going to be a matter of. I think Breeze has to stay healthy, and I think that's probably the key to it now. Yeah. And I wouldn't have said that. I wouldn't have said that 7 weeks ago, but I just think.
Yeah,
I just think. Yeah, that's a. Yeah, I think that's my answer. Yeah. What's your answer? I want to know what's your answer on that?
Okay, if the Saints make the Super Bowl.
I know you're supposed to ask the questions, but I'm flipping it around.
Nah. Hey, that's your job too, the Saints make the Super Bowl if the defense is consistent. Like the defense has I'm not concerned about the offense, right? Like I'm not. Sean Payton does a really good job putting guys in positions to succeed offensively. Right. It's going to be very hard to stop the Saints, but the defense is my main concern. Some of those big plays, some of those times where they can be out of position. I just feel like if the defense buckles down, stays focused, then I think the sky's the limit for the New Orleans Saints. As long as they stay consistent and they stay healthy, I think that the Saints are going to make the Super Bowl. No doubt about that.
It's going back to that consistency thing. I think that's the thing. I mean, we're coming off of this game we're talking about this game against Tampa Bay and how great they play, but you do have to be consistent. I mean, we can't. I don't want to put everything into that game and say, "Oh, yeah, they're back." Yeah, right. We need to see that. We need to see that this week. We need to see it the following week, and that's going to be the key. So it's probably too. I don't want asking me that question after that Buccaneers game makes it hard because everybody just told, "Oh yeah, they're back, and
right.
You still got to be consistent."
Yeah. So. I mean, you got to be consistent, and I mean, you got to kind of. Drown out, the background noise.
Right.
Everybody's saying your praises this week, and everybody's saying that you for real this week. But last week they wasn't saying that. They didn't have the same type of energy. So you got to have that same type of mind frame as if you're going into every game like that Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. And if the Saints do ride, then, like I said, they should make the Super Bowl. I don't see any teams in the NFC that just pose such a huge threat to the New Orleans Saints that I feel like they can't beat them. I mean, the Rams are a really good football team. They kind of fly under the radar, in my opinion. The Seattle Seahawks, I mean, they're good, but they have a lot of defensive issues. I mean, the Arizona Cardinals, they're the number one offense in the league the last time I checked. But it's not to a point where I feel like the Saints can't beat them as well. I mean, just go down the list. So if they just continue to just build on the momentum they had last week, I think they should be just fine.
I agree with you, man. I just think, being consistent is the key. It's easy I think it's easy for the Saints to get up for the Buccaneers and Tom Brady, but we need to see if they can get up for, San Francisco without Garoppolo and the Falcons. I mean, it's the Falcons, but we know what happened last year, so they need to take care of business. I mean, they need to show, because if they lose a game in these next 3 weeks. Who is it? San Francisco, Atlanta.
Who else did they play?
Denver.
Yeah,
Denver. Yeah. I mean, if they lose one of those games, it sort of takes away from what they did Sunday night. To me, it takes away from their Buccaneers wins. I mean, you got to be consistent and stack those wins and beat the teams that you're supposed to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to eat them W's like Jameis Winston. All right. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Before you go, like always, let everybody know how they can reach you.
Yeah, on Twitter, I'm Rod Walker Nola. and my work is on NOLA.com. Just go to NOLA.com and sports and Saints, and you'll see some of my work. And yeah, that's pretty much it, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Like
Oh, yeah.
always, Rod Walker. Y'all check him out on NOLA.com. Always have some great articles. And also, you probably hear him in the background during those interviews for the New Orleans Saints press conferences as well. Rod, thank you so much for your time, and thanks for being a part of the State of Saints podcast.
Anytime, man.
Thank you.